Welcome to the ACC College Football Predictions. Yes, as college football begins in 1 month, I thought I'd take this back to where it all began. So, just like last year, I will do a conference preview / predictions. And I'm going to break down all conferences, which it's not going to be in one video. It's going to be on each video. So for this video, will be the ACCs. I'm going to be previewing all the teams coming in the ACC, the predictions, and who could stand out this year and who will be my ACC champion this year. So this year's ACC, after last year's surprising ACC title game with Duke winning the ACC and then unfortunately not winning the not going to the college football playoffs, there were some surprises. UNC did not succeed under Bill Belichick in year one. Jake Dicker, the coach for Wake Forest, had an impressive first year at the Demon Deacons. Virginia was the biggest surprise when going out and making to the ACC title game with Tony Elliott under pressure as the coach, and all of a sudden that pressure's away from him this year. And so now this year, all eyes are going to be expectations in this conference. Everyone is probably saying this is not the best conference. Yes, it's not the best conference, but there are some surprises in this conference, and you never know what's going to happen. This year's ACC could get a lot of fun. All we need to understand is this year's ACC could be intriguing. So let's go ahead and preview / predictions. Of course, this is a preview, also predictions video, so don't get confused. So in 17th place, I'm going to go with Boston College with a 1-11 record, 0-8 in the conference. Yes, their head coach is Bill O'Brien, of course, and it's been an up and down year for him as a coach for the Golden Eagles. Well, now this is going to be more of desperation and maybe starting a rebuild for the Golden Eagles. Yes, their new quarterback, of course, its name is Mason McKenzie. Again, their schedule's brutal, of course, of their conference too. I think if you're looking, their best ceiling is probably 3 wins. But I think the worst scenarios, they cannot get any wins. But I think they'll get 1 win. I think that will be against Maine. How much pressure will Bill O'Brien be after this season? Because if they do finish 1-11, and if Boston College decides to fire Bill O'Brien, then what is the new regime coming in for Boston College? And is this a rebuild program for a new coach to step in Boston College? At 16, I got Stanford with a 2-10 record, 0-9 in the conference record, and they're led by a new head coach, a Stanford Cardinal legend, of course, and Washington Commanders quarterbacks coach, former, of course, Tevye Pritchard, who is now the new head coach, first timer in his religious way to be a head coach. He is now going to take over as the new Cardinal head coach. And yes, Andrew Luck is the GM. He's going to do whatever he can to build this football team. They brought in Davis Warren, who did have some couple starts in Michigan, I believe, the year when they were defending the national championship, when they were the defending champs. Davis Warren has some starts, of course. I think their ceiling could be 3-9. Their worst scenario could be maybe 1-11. I think they're going to go 2-10. I just think for year one as a first-time head coach, you always feel the pressure as a first-timer. So I think all eyes will be on their new head coach. Andrew Luck is the GM, and can Davis Warren have a good start of his starting level as a starting quarterback? We'll find out. But again, he has been around, of course, with Sharon Moore, with Jim Harbaugh. So he's been in Michigan for a very long time, and now he's in a situation where now he is going to take the starting job in Stanford. At 15, I have Syracuse with a 3-9 record, 1-8 in the conference. And Fred Brown is their coach, of course. We know him very well. I believe this is year 3 for Fred Brown. And what a way for Fred Brown to start his coaching career as a head coach. You start off from year 1, incredible story with Kyle McCord, to then last season with Steven Ella, who was healthy, ready to go, injured, and they had some quarterback issues going on this year. So all pressure will be on Fred Brown coming in this year. I think best scenario is a 4-8 season. Worst scenario may be the same way they had it, which is probably going to be 3-9 again. The pressure is going to be on Fred Brown, but for Steven Nella, who, again, he was the backup quarterback for Riley Leonard in his time in Notre Dame and came to Syracuse to replace Kyle McCord, who left to the NFL. So he's going to have a big step up this year. At 14, this is where I think people will go in the comments and go, this doesn't make sense, or unless you'll probably go, well, this could make sense. I have UNC with a 4-8 record and a 2-6 record in the conference. Now, does this have to do with Bill Belichick? Maybe. But this is year 2 for him. Now, they did hire Bobby Petrino, the former Arkansas interim head coach. I believe he is going to be the offensive coordinator. And he has a new quarterback in Billy Edwards Jr., who had a terrible injury in his time in Wisconsin. So he's looking to bounce back from that injury. I think their ceiling is 6-6. If Billy Edwards is healthy, if Bobby Petrino can unlock that offense to a winning offense. And the defense, again, this defense is still going to be the same, of course, but they're going to have to be a major step up. So I look at this as a 6-6 record. I think the worst scenario would be 4-8. Say, like, if Billy Edwards Jr. doesn't get enough good time play for the offense, the play calling from Petrino doesn't go well, and the defense is the same as last year, I think a 4-8 record. I think there's going to be an all-pressure moment for Bill Belichick. Maybe he gets fired, or unless they terminate his contract. Depends on how this season goes. In 13th place, I have Duke with a 5-7 record, 3-6 in the conference. And this is not because, it's just because Manny Diaz is the coach. Yes, they're the defending ACC champs, but they're going in this season with no expectation. Well, not higher expectations, but probably you go meh expectations. Yes, you do lose Darren Mensah, who transferred to Miami, which we'll hopefully talk about Miami later on. But they did bring in a quarterback in San Jose State's transfer quarterback, Walker Eget, who is now going to be taking some snaps as a starter. I think the ceiling could be maybe, I think this is too high. I think 7-5 if Eget can get some good play time as a starter and Manny Diaz defense steps up and wins big games. I think they're going to go 7-5. I think the worst scenario is I'm leaning to 4-8, but also 3-9. That's if maybe the quarterback changes, goes on and on. I think they win 5 games. Maybe they fall short to a bowl eligible this year. I think Duke will be a team to keep an eye on. There's a lot of questions on their quarterback room, yes, and on questions on Manny Diaz, but I still think Duke is a good football team, and they're going to step up, and they're going to have some really important questions. All right, Wake Forest at number 12 with a 6-6 record, but with a 3-6 record in the conference. Yes, Jake Dickerter is their second-year coach. What a turnaround for him, leading them to the Duke Mayo's Bowl, winning the Duke Mayo Bowl, which is incredible for the Demon Deacons. Well earned for them. Well, now here he is, year 2, all pressure's on him, and now they brought in a new quarterback. It is Gio Lopez. Now, last season, I thought Gio Lopez would have a good year with the Tar Heels. He did not. Disaster for him in UNC. Now he's going to Wake Forest, and all pressure is on Gio Lopez. Can he get his South Alabama form in this team? Or what version of Gio Lopez are we going to get? Are we going to get a version of UNC Gio Lopez, or are we going to get a version of South Africa Gio Lopez? Worst ceiling, I think, is 5-7. Maybe Gio Lopez isn't the guy and they go quarterback changes. I think ceiling is 7-5. Maybe they get some big-time conference wins, but I just think they're going to have some struggle this year. But I think 6-6 could be a good enough record for the Demon Deacons. At number 11, I got Florida State with a 5-7 record with a 3-5 conference record. Mike Norvell, the head coach, you're under pressure because even though you went from undefeated season, not making it to the college football playoffs, then last season, all expectations on you guys, and you just win 2 games. And then last season was a disaster with Thomas Castellanos, even though you defeated Alabama. But now here they are. They got a new quarterback in Ashton Daniels, who has some couple starting jobs, of course, in Stanford, and then also has some maybe 1 or 2 games with Auburn. So he's been there before, but all pressure is going to be on Mike Norvell. Can he get this Florida State team back on track for a contending ACC title game? I don't know. I just think their ceiling right now for me is 8-4. Maybe Ashton Daniels can really play his best football at Florida State. And they did add some great pieces on offense. They added Weissner, the running back from Texas. He's gonna have a monster season for the Florida State Seminoles. If he has that kind of a season, I think they go 8-4. The worst ceiling could be, and I think this could be their worst ceiling, 5-4. Maybe they're not getting good quarterback play, and they're deep, and maybe all pressure is going to be on Mike Norvell. So again, all pressure is on him. There's so many questions for Florida State, but we'll see what happens there. All right, let's go to top 10. Number 10, I have the Pitt Panthers with a 7-5 record, 4-5 in the conference. Pat Norvell is the coach, and all eyes is on their new starting quarterback, Mason Hanshaw, who has some big-time starts as the starting quarterback for the Pitt Panthers. But now this is his time to shine this year in the ACC. How good will Pitt be with Mason at quarterback? I think he will do good. I think 7 wins, I mentioned. This, again, 7-5 record will not be that bad. Their ceiling could be 8-4. I think the worst scenario, if this could go, depends on their quarterback changes. I would say 6-6 record, and maybe, even though they're bowl eligible would be enough, maybe all eyes will be on their quarterback room. At number 9, I got NC State with a 6-6 record, 4-5 record as the head in the conference. Dave Doran, when are you going to start finding a way to find a new quarterback? Remember, CJ Bailey took over last season because, yes, if you remember 2 years ago, Grayson McCall was the quarterback there, but until he had a football career-ending injury, CJ Bailey came in to step up. And then last season was a really good season. I think NC State are feeling more pressure this year with CJ Bailey at quarterback. Ceiling could be 7-5. Maybe CJ Bailey could have a big year. But I think worst scenario you're looking at is a 5-7 record. So again, time will tell. We'll see what happens with the Wolfpack. I think 6-6 would be a good enough record for them to go bowl eligible, and I think all eyes could still be on NC State, rather if they can get good quarterback play with CJ Bailey. Number 8, Virginia Tech, and I have them 8-4. I have them with an 8-4 record, 5-4 in the conference, and all eyes is on the Hokies. My question for the Hokies is this question right here. Just how fast can James Franklin get Virginia Tech as an ACC powerhouse? James Franklin is a great coach. Look what the success he had in Penn State. Even though he loses the big games, he's still a good coach. He's a great coach. Now he's taking over a program where there's some optimism right now with Virginia Tech. Yes, they do bring back Brent Purr, who was the head coach of last season. He is now the defensive coordinator. They did brought some Penn State players, one of them including Ethan Guggermeyer, who did have some play time last season during Drew Aller's season-ending injury. Now he's going to be the starting quarterback for Virginia Tech. If I give them a ceiling, I think the ceiling is 9-3. If they can get some big-time wins, maybe Virginia big-time win, a win against SMU, maybe a win against Clemson, they're going to be a real powerhouse in the ACC. And watch out. Again, you never know what James Franklin is cooking in there for Virginia Tech. So what could be their worst ceiling? Well, their worst scenario could be, I would say, 6-6. I think it's if maybe the hype of James Franklin goes to lower expectations, then yeah, maybe 6-6 record. But I'm super excited for Virginia Tech. I'm looking forward to what James Franklin can do at Virginia Tech. Maybe I do concede Virginia Tech if they go 9 or 10 wins. Watch out. They can sneak into the top 25 rankings of this year. At 7, I have the Cal Golden Bears with a 7-5 record, 5-3 in the conference record. They got a new coach in Tosh Lepu, who knows this program very well. Of course, he's coming out of the Oregon Ducks, who was their defensive coordinator there. Now, how good is this Cal football team? They got a quarterback in Jaron Kawi Segapalutio. He's good. They're going to get a lot of good play time. He's going to have a great season this year. If you're looking for a quarterback besides Darren Mensah, JKS is going to be the guy at quarterback. All questions are on Cal, but this Cal Golden Bears team, this could be really good. Ceiling for them is probably going to be 8-4. Their worst scenario could go 5-7. Maybe their season doesn't go very well. But overall, I think they're going to be a most surprised team to watch. Most fun team to watch. 7-5. Georgia Tech at number 6 with a 7-5 record. 5-3 in the conference record. Brent Key has a lot of questions. And that is, can Georgia Tech go on without Haynes King? Yes, Haynes King is out. And welcome Alberto Mendoza. Cannot wait to see what Alberto Mendoza does. And again, they bring him from Indiana, the defending national champs, and now he's going to be the starting quarterback for them. Same offense, the same offense that he ran with Kurt Cinetti. Now he's going to do it with Brent Key. Also, they did bring Justice Haynes from Michigan as their running back, so that's a great piece on offense. I think they can win 7 games. I think Brent Key's a great coach. I think he's going to get something out of Alberto Mendoza. Maybe there's going to be a chance that Alberto can have not like Heisman Trophy season, but one of those surprising seasons for the ACC. I think their ceiling is 7-5. Their worst case scenario is 5-7. Maybe it's if Alberto cannot have some doesn't have some good time. Maybe the lack of experience, it could be affected. But I think Georgia Tech will be a good football team. I think they go 7-5. Which leads me to top 5. And I'll go ahead and make this as quick as possible. I have Clemson with 8-4. Virginia at number 4 with a 10-2 record. Louisville at number 3 with a 9-3 record. 8-1 in the conference. Number 2 is SMU with an 11-1 record, 9-0. And then Miami, 11-1, 9-0 in the conference. Let's start with Clemson. All questions is on Clemson. The Tigers and Dabo Swinney. When are they going to get a big-time year for Dabo Swinney? And all pressure's on him. They got a new quarterback coach in Christopher Zillania, who's been the backup for Cade Klutnick. So, and of course, they have a new offensive coordinator. So, can he get some big-time season this year? How much pressure is on Dabo Swinney's job? Because we all thought last season maybe Clemson is going to pull the trigger to maybe move on with Dabo Swinney, but instead Dabo is staying this year, and they're going to have a higher expectation. Ceiling for them is probably 10-2. Maybe they do get some good time plays from Christopher Veneza. Worst scenario could be 8-4, but this is how far I can go for them. They will go finish the season 6-2 as a conference record. For Virginia and Tony Elliott, can they recap the same thing they did last year? Maybe it's going to be hard because they got a new quarterback in Bo Parbolo, who has been the Missouri quarterback, went to Penn State as the backup, and then went back to Missouri as the starter. Had a hamstring injury, I believe, or ankle injury. So he's hoping that he's healthy, he's good to go. I think 10-2 is a great record. That's a great ceiling for them. Their worst scenario could be 8-4. They maybe lose some big-time games that they will hope they want them back. And maybe all the pressure will go back to Tony Elliott. Louisville. I think Louisville is going to be it's going to be a dark horse in the ACC. Is it Louisville's time to take a big step forward? I think they can do it. If we're saying besides Miami, SMU, I think Louisville. Now, Jeff Brom did bring in a new quarterback in Lincoln Clinton Holtz, who's been the backup quarterback for Julian Sain. And I do believe he was the backup alongside Will Howard in Ohio State. So he's been learning from those two guys, plus Ryan Day over there. Brian Hertline, their former offensive coordinator there. So now you have Jeff Brom. Now you take over this program. I think they could be a dark horse to win this ACC conference. 9-3 should be good. I think their ceiling could be a 10-2 record, but their worst scenario is 8-4. But I think 9-3 should be enough. So that leads me to the two teams that I do believe will go to the ACC title game: SMU and Miami. Both are going to go 9-0, and I think both coaches are going to be great. Rhett Lashlee is a great coach for SMU, and they're getting Kevin Jenkins back for year 3 with the Mustangs. While for Miami, yes, all questions are going to be on Miami. Are they going to be back in the national title game? Are they going to be the favorites to win the title game next year or this upcoming season? Mario Cristobal is a winner. He's a winner in Miami. He did it in Oregon, and now he's doing it in Miami. They got a new quarterback in Darren Mensah, who's been on the charts of a Heisman Trophy favorites, of course, with C.J. Carr and, of course, Julian Sain, Jeremiah Love. But can they get great play time for Darren Mensah? And he is going to have, again, just like Carson Beck they did with replacing Cam Ward, can Darren Mensah replace Carson Beck's position? Can he do what Carson Beck did last season? So in Charlotte, SMU versus Miami. If this is the title game for the ACC, this would be a fun one to watch. I'm leaning towards Miami. Miami, I think the U will win the ACC this year. That's it for my ACC preview / predictions video. And the next one will be the Big 12. So you never know when is it going to come out. Hopefully it'll come out this week, or you'll probably see me again next week for another edition of the College Football Preview / predictions video. If you haven't seen my other videos, go check them out on my channel. Of course, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for more sports news.